Welcome back. It is Mike again, and as we get towards the end of the Mike Ferry sales system, this next particular topic for today, which is called business systems, is not going to be as relevant to everybody as it will be to you in your future as your business starts to grow. But whether you're a brand new licensee, whether you're a low producer that is now getting involved in coaching to improve production, whether you're a person doing 10, 12 deals a year that has a design or a thought to really move up, it is something you have to look at and consider for your future. So take a few minutes and listen to this short, straight to the point, very important CD. Business systems. Now, watch. We'll start with this thought. The Mike Ferry organization offers a very specific, predictable, duplicatable sales system. The only way it works is if you use it. See, we offer throughout the course of these CDs a very specific system that will help you produce at a much higher level than you have in the past. But as with any predictable, duplicatable system, it is only as good as the user, and it's only as good as the use of that particular system. So in terms of business systems, the first thing we have to understand is we have to use those things we're taught. But Mike, I don't like some of the things that you're teaching. Well, of course you don't. I mean, if you're trying to lose weight, you don't like the fact that you have to cut out some of the food you've been eating. Okay? Watch. If you're trying to get in better shape, you don't like the fact that you have to go to the gym to get in better shape. I mean, these are all things that are called normal. Of course you don't like it. It's called human nature. Doesn't matter whether you like it. If you want to achieve the goals you've set, you have to use it. Second thought. We have to become masters of details if we expect to have a viable system for doing business. I think probably one of the most common problems we see in real estate is agents don't pay attention to details. Now, I don't want you to be spending hours on end working on a file that doesn't need to be worked on. But there are certain details in every transaction that have to be taken care of. There's certain details in your business plan that have to be watched. There's certain details in your time management system that you have to use. Look at the details, make sure they're being done to master the plans that you've set. And then I wrote down, as I've said time and time again, selling real estate in big numbers requires an exact sales system. Once we've established our sales systems, we can support it by putting an administrative system in place to back it up. Now, we talked earlier about the fact that we talked about administration and staffing. There's going to be a point where all of you probably need to hire an assistant. We said 40 to 45 transactions. So let's say you're at that point of doing 40 to 45 transactions annually, and you've made the decision to hire an assistant. Well, you have a sales system in place now. You have a methodology of getting to 45 transactions a year. You have to now have for your assistant an assistant's sales system, an assistant's administrative system, an assistant's checklist, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that that staff person is following the process to make sure that each deal is completed and processed in the proper manner. So we have the sales system, then we have to have an administrative system to back it up. We'll talk about that more in a few minutes. Look at point 4. The system you have is the creator of the business that you get. Therefore, the lack of a system keeps you from getting business. When your systems are only in your head, you become the only asset in your business. As you create your systems, write them down, creating an operating manual for your business. Now the systems create value and become an asset for you. How do you process a listing? How do you process a transaction? What is your communication lines that you use to make sure that each transaction is done properly? Okay? Which means then you have to create checklists by simply listing everything you do when you take a listing or make a sale. And once you've created a checklist, you have to put it on paper and then operate by it 100% of the time. And I think what happens to most people is they never get to the point where they're doing enough business that they need to have a system because they can spend all their time working on their transactions versus having a system in place to work on the transaction. Now remember, having a system in place takes the stress out of the transaction and creates a much, much better environment for your buyers and sellers and the other agents to work within. Okay? We all want to take the stress out of a transaction. Now, there's no easy transaction. okay? There's no stress-free days in life, and there's certainly no stress-free transactions. But having systems in place that take the stress out of the transaction and creates a better environment for you and your buyers, and your sellers, really makes a huge difference in the transactions. So you need to always be looking for ways to improve what you're doing. Ask your clients for feedback on your service, okay? Ask your staff, if you have staff, to critique your systems you have in place. And the more you do this, the better chance you have. Who better to understand what you've done than the client that you've worked with? Who better to understand what you're doing than the staff person you have in place? So if you don't have staff in place, you use your clients as a feedback, and if you have staff in place, use your staff as a method of feedback, okay? Remember now that systems of any type and how you process transactions and delegation always go hand in hand. And you know, it's interesting to me, I've been talking about agents delegating for probably 35 years, and I still have a hard time getting most agents to delegate. So here's some thoughts on delegating. By delegating, you give yourself the gift of time. When you delegate, you give yourself more time for your personal life and your business life. Delegation always fosters team building. You're giving somebody the responsibility, the authority to do something that works with you, which builds their confidence in themselves, and they always then have more confidence in you. Delegation gives you the power to multiply yourself. If you're delegating, you can now start doing several things, whereas if you're trying to do it all yourself, you can do one thing. And delegation always boosts creativity. If you say to the mortgage company, the title company, your assistant, let's figure out a way to do this better. 2 to 3 minds go to work, which creates a better system for you. And delegation inspires motivation because others see that their opinion does make a difference and does count. Gosh, if we can just get our own staff to be inspired every single day about doing what has to be done, we really do have it made. So here's the sum of the areas you might need a system for, okay? Some of the areas. Obviously, you need a system for finding for sale by owners, expireds, etc. And those will come, of course, through RedX. Just listed, just sold phone numbers come through Cole Information Services. You need a system for working past client centers of influence. You need to download and listen to our 2012 one-on-one retreat. You need systems for listing property and servicing listings. This is common sense checklist you have to put together. Systems for transaction follow-up. What are all the steps that need to take place in a transaction for it to close? Systems for price reductions. Are you keeping track of who you're asking, when you're asking, how much you're asking for? Obviously a system for hiring people if you're going to hire staff, and a system for keeping track of all the MFO materials you're going to accumulate because there's going to be a lot. The one advantage of this particular coaching sales kit is you have an entire sales system from A to Z all inside one kit. I'm not going to spend any more time on systems because I understand fully that it doesn't apply to everybody that we are training to sell real estate. But for those that are ready for them, go back and listen time and time again, and I'll talk to you real soon.